I threw a pizza up the middle at the start of overtime. That's why I'm riding the pine, with Punchy Langer in summertime. You'll never see me backtrack, cause that's really not my style. That's why I'm riding the pine, with Punchy Langer in summertime. I was supposed to bring the beer, but instead I brought the wine. That's why I'm riding the pine, with Punchy Langer in summertime. I think I'm 97, but I play like 69. That's why I'm riding the pine, with Punchy Langer in summertime. I keep the puck for every goal I score and add it to my shrine. That's why I'm riding the pine, with Punchy Langer in summertime. I could have met curfew, but chose suspension and the fine. That's why I'm riding the pine, with Punchy Langer in summertime. I'm just sitting on the bench with two line mates of mine.
Back, everybody, to episode 34 of Riding Pine Chronicles of the Fourth Line, brought to you by the Hockey House. This is Chronicles of the Fourth Line. We are the Fourth Line. It's Punchy Langer in summertime. How we doing, boys?
Yeah, good. Good, mate.
Yep.
Mate.
For the first time in forever, we got a guest from a hockey doco, one that a lot of you have seen on Netflix right now, called Untold, Crime and Penalties. So for the first time ever, we're going to be able to fill the second period up with a pretty cool interview. Me and Somerville got to sit down and talk with AJ Galante. So we'll get to that later. But for right now, Langer, what do you got for warm-ups?
Well, we got a very, very delicious conversation before we went on air tonight, just about a few things. And I'm going to circle back on one of them. So who's playing the drums?
Man, it's fire. Someone's got some fireworks.
Is it? I thought it was like...
Oh, yeah.
I know. Well, that's what I was looking at, but it was like sparkles. It sounded like someone was like scraping the ceiling, or someone was dragging a tin can across the floor upstairs. It was weird. Anyways,
somebody just got married.
Oh, those I call them crack dealers. Those pop-up fireworks places that just show for like...
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a container on the side of the road. Like
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
There's some...
The laminated cardboard sign.
It's like it's a 1978 El Camino weighed down by the explosives in the back.
See, I like it when someone fires up fireworks in like August, like June. You know, because it's only November you can buy them. So you know, you're camping or something, or you're just having to sit in the summer and someone ripped off some fireworks. I'm like, he's been saving. He must be having a good time because he's been saving.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Or he got a fucking boatload. He was the guy running the container, right? He's got a fucking...
The most dangerous thing.
Oh. Yeah. That's right. That's right. Oh, you want to try? Oh. For a split second, he thinks, oh, maybe I should let them try it. Yeah.
Just when you think kids suck, shit like that. Dad, there's fires and explosions and danger out there.
Yeah, that's right. Let's go.
Let's do it.
That's right.
Let's get on with the game, eh?
All right, let's do this.
And the first period is underway.
All right. Well, so I honestly, I watch a lot of sort of fringe science, fringe history, fringe, that sort of documentaries. That's what I'm sort of into.
So when you say fringe, you're watching like the first 10 minutes and then
not all the time. But I honestly, like when I'm looking for, you know, I mean, look, I'm just casually browsing YouTube here, right? You know, I mean, but I enjoy watching.
YouTube wormhole.
Yeah, you know, I mean, right? You know, I'm no fucking scientist here researching on YouTube, right? Everybody, don't get me wrong here. but I enjoy the things that the content I like to consume. Yeah, is a lot of. I'm a conspiracy dude, and I watch a lot of, like I said, sort of fringe science, fringe, like tomorrow science sort of thing. You know, because you know, like things like you know, suits that'll help regulate your body, sort of thing. You know, keep it tempered, even like alert you to disease, keep your eye on your heart, your blood levels, your sugar levels, blah 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 blah. You know, something that'll like it's like a biotechnology, you know, stuff like that. That's I find that like, you know, there's some, and you know, I mean, anyways, I find though that watching like 80s and 70s documentaries, they're a lot more basically raw and real, because in like now,
well, none of the social trappings and PC bullshit are even close to that. You know what I mean?
Well,
I watched
exactly, yeah.
but I watched it popped up in my feed. It was a 1950s movie show in school about warning kids about the homosexual. But the way it was presented was just wow, you know, like
yeah.
It was like this, like evil person who drives by every day in his car.
That's right.
Jimmy home. You know,
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, fascinating. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. No, so you know, Carl Sagan, he like his original series.
He's a spaceman.
What was it? Cosmos?
Yeah,
no,
Cosmos was the series.
Yeah. I found, and I still enjoyed. Oh yeah.
No, it was like the.
I haven't gone that far yet.
Like the history of like everything, like the universe. Mm-hmm. And you finish it, and you're like, I am so insignificant.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Like you're just at the end, you're like, oh my god.
Well, I mean,
it's just mind bending.
Yeah.
It is. Yes. Yes. So yeah. What else? I mean, I guess I haven't really. Yeah, I haven't. You know, I got nothing really sort of note and mention. Just a lot of junk I consume.
Well, fire some stuff.
I don't know. All right. Okay. So
you know.
Well, like I like alien life. You know, like well, what does that look like? You know, space travel. You know, I mean.
That comment alone, walking by like shop, like with windows and the TVs are on, and he is just taking a drag from a cigarette. And he's watching this. Ooh, what's that all about? He's the guy standing on the street watching this with no sound. This is crazy.
Oh, you know what? I guess, so here's some notable documentaries that I've watched recently that people could probably relate to is, I watched the 9/11 series. Actually, to be honest, I haven't finished that yet, but I got into about, I think 4 episodes deep.
It's pretty good. I got to the first one because that's all I wanted to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is just, we've talked about it.
Yeah.
That's just so freaking crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I watched a documentary on Guantanamo Bay. Holy fuck!
It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Holy shit!
That's the end of the world.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Literally are not going. It's the end.
And you don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
How does that happen? You know what I mean?
And somehow you're in
today,
America.
Isn't
it? You know,
it's like,
they got prisons in the you don't even know what's going on.
Yeah. Oh fuck! It's on the moon. You know, like yeah.
Prisoners living.
Yeah. Fuck.
So when the Oilers won the cup, there was like on the moon, like watching it on a black and white TV.
That's right.
And it was like 5 days later.
With his with the Oilers jersey on over the.
Gretzky got traded. We didn't find out till like 5 days.
Yeah, that's it.
Watching all these games. Oh, dude, he's gone, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
Fuck Guantanamo Bay. That was a crazy one. Remember old fucking Tiger King, right? That was. I was.
Dude, there's a second one coming out.
dude,
There's
he watched
Tiger.
it.
There's Tiger King 2 coming.
Yeah,
But
he's
that
the one that
can't
got me
be-
into it.
I wanted Trump to exonerate him so bad. He had a limousine waiting outside his prison. Like,
Well,
Well, he's in
apparently
it
shit
for.
kept going south, man.
but
Like,
can you
there's a-
imagine dreaming your whole life famous, and you are? That's the
And then you go to prison. Yeah,
You're locked in a
And you-
outside, you're like a hero.
yeah.
Talk
And you know,
about
he-
cruel.
I think
That's
Joe.
right.
I think Joe Exotic definitely would have done the interview if we got a hold of him. And he
Dude,
was on the outside.
100%.
Yeah.
Because it would have been a push for whatever he's selling or all he's selling.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The show would have been sponsored by Exotic Joe face cream. It's like-
Or condoms or underwear or something.
yeah.
Mullet, gun,
Yeah.
piercings.
He would.
Doesn't wear underwear.
Oh my God! What would have been amazing is we could have had a duet with you and him doing the theme song at the beginning together.
That would have been good. I would have had to sing "I Saw a Tiger" at some point. Seriously, I was going to say Warehouse. Not long after that came out, his song was on the PA, and I'm like, this is hilarious
I don't remember the song.
because it's kind of a good song. Well, look up "I Saw a Tiger," man. You'll be playing it at your wedding.
Right?
Yeah, it's that song at the curling club. Was it's like
Of
it's like
course.
90% girls inside and like 100% dudes outside. Partying in the parking lot. They only go
As
in when
you
they're
do.
hungry. Come on, you guys have been doing this wedding before, haven't you?
Oh, fuck.
Oh yeah.
Holy
Yes.
shit, that's
Yeah.
so,
Jeez. Man.
barn-
Fuck.
barn parties? Oh my God. What are we talking about? Sandbagging.
No. We went from Joe Exotic to barn
I know.
parties.
Yeah.
I was thinking about middle races. Winning stacks of
Uh,
through the raffle. Yeah. Which is normal at a bar in New Zealand.
yeah.
Someone's
That's
buying a
it.
raffle. Just so you know.
That's right.
There's a meat raffle.
It's the only place, it's the only country I've been to in the world you can go shopping at the bar.
At the bar. Man, New Zealand's the only place I've known where you can like buy beer to go. You know what I mean?
What? Like at
Well-
the bar?
Yeah.
What?
Oh,
So you can
yeah.
say, like, can I grab that bottle of vodka off the beer for me?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
A lot of places you can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
It's a different license though. It's a different license. They have to have an off license.
Yeah, I was going to say it's that
They
off
gotta-
license thing. It'll be a bar.
There's an
like,
on license.
liquor store, like, wait.
On license, which is specific to the venue, and then there's an off license in which you can take it off, and then there's actually a remote license in which you can like move around,
Oh,
so
okay.
like do like trade shows and stuff. And then there's the special license, which is like for certain events that are held
Okay.
in places that don't usually have licenses.
Because I know if you go to small towns, there's always like a tavern, the pub, but there's always the off license that's kind of like back part of it or like around the side.
The off license was like off sales. Like I remember in Calgary, there was a place that had off sales. Like, so the bars are Calgary's kind of like Alberta's kind of like the Texas of Canada, right? They kind of do their own thing,
Right.
and like taxes are a little bit cheaper there. There's mom and pop liquor stores there, whereas everything else is regulated in all the other provinces.
So
The drinking age is a little bit lower. But when I used to bartend there, I used to bartend just right next to the Saddle Dome. So there was lots of chuck wagon racers and stuff that would come in after their trainings and whatnot. But we would stay open till 4 or 5 in the morning because we had an off sale license, and you would see all sorts of humanity coming in there at between 2 and 5 in the morning every day of the week. Right? It's called the Shamrock. Anybody who from Calgary knows the Shamrock is let's just say it's on the other side of the tracks. Right. But good time. Yeah.
Oh my God. Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's so yeah, there's some off sales places along the way. How did we get on to off sales? Who can steer us back?
Well, we were talking about licenses, and then
yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I don't
maybe
know. I think there was.
Guys, we only Stone sober.
What would we call that one?
And around we go.
That's right.
One of the things was after we had our last Goons trip, as soon as we came back, this Untold Crime and Penalties came out of nowhere. And it's just a really crazy story that we got to know from this guy who grew up in, like, in essence, like a mob household, whereas his parents are the model for The Sopranos, which is like one of my favorite shows growing up. And then there's this hockey team connected to it, which was such a wild and intriguing story. What did you guys, how did you guys experience that, like that particular doco?
Well, I thought the production was really good. That was one of the reasons it wasn't budget like it was. I never saw the trailer, but you told me about it. I started watching it. This is really interesting. I mean, the story is obviously, this is made for TV. But the production was well done, and the way that they filmed it and put all the clips and stuff in it. It was really engaging.
Yeah, it was.
And like the thing about today with people's watching habits is, I mean, real is way more interesting than fiction. You know, kids now, they don't watch cartoons. They watch other people doing stuff.
One thing that we touched on when we were talking to AJ, and like he was saying, like the logistics of it, because like he was filming on old school cameras with like big tapes, and having to convert everything over and stuff. I think it's just best to listen to the man himself. So let's turn it over to that interview and check it out. Ride and Pine Chronicles from the Fourth Line, now available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Now enjoy this week's interview with the former general manager of the Danbury Trashers and the star of the Netflix Untold Crime and Penalties documentary.
Anyways, we're quite a small outfit, so to have somebody I've seen on Netflix is pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Hey, you know what? Hopefully, I like to be the first one into the party sometimes. So hopefully, if you guys hopefully make it big, hopefully I could be one of the bigger guys that started with you.
A friend of the show from the get-go. So
Absolutely.
Hey, if you haven't figured out today on the show, our grocery stick for the day is, he's not a guy who got famous from Ride and Pine like me, Langer, in summertime, but he got famous from working from the front office from the ripe old age of 17. Some people know him as the kid that got a hockey team from the Netflix doco. Some people know him as the GM of the former bad boys of hockey, the Danbury Trashers. Some people know him as a boxing coach. We know him as a guy who made a statement on Chiclets that said he would do the show with 20 viewers, and we called him on his bluff, and not only did he answer the phone, but here he is. So without any further ado, welcome to the show, AJ Galante.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
So one of the toughest things that we found is, we've known you're coming on the show now for a little while. So check out a couple of the old interviews and stuff like that. And we figured out that like everybody has asked you everything to do about this doco. So we tried to figure out questions that nobody's asked you yet. So whether it be for the doco or just from life in general, you said you didn't want any of the questions. So we're not even gonna mess around. We had some tech issues earlier getting sorted here. So we're just gonna go right to Summer, and now you're on the hot seat with Somerville. So here we go.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Well, I just want to thank you again, AJ, for taking the time to join our very small show. But yeah, we're gonna do our best to make it interesting for you. Are you ready for the hot seat, my friend?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All right. Well, look, I've got about 10 or so questions that are lined out here, but I wanted to start out with talk to me about AJ. What does AJ stand for? I myself am also an AJ, but
Okay.
I just go with summertime for the show. But where did that come from? What's your AJ?
Well, my full name is Anthony James. So Anthony was both of my grandfather's names, and then James is my father's name. So, in my family, just about everybody's an Anthony. So, you got who's an Anthony, who's a Tony, and they just stuck me with the initials. So I ended up they dubbed me with AJ, and it's stuck with me ever since.
Oh, that's interesting. I'm also Anthony as well. So Aaron John Anthony is I got two middle names, but so anyways, all right, cool. Look, so you probably not watched the show before, but we do these things in sort of period gaps, right? So I got first period, and the way I normally do things, you normally start at the beginning. So I'm going to ask you a few questions about your childhood, and then work our way up to the doco. Is that cool?
Absolutely.
All right, my friend. So look, tell us about your childhood. Tell us what it was like growing up in Danbury. Do you have any sort of favorite childhood memories with the family?
Yeah, I tell you, I had a great childhood. As I look back now, maybe look, I was with my father a lot. Most of my summers were spent with him, at his office, but I had a nice, close-knit group of friends, fairly large extended family. So, I think I grew up just about like anyone else, playing sports, school, hanging with your cousins or your buddies and stuff like that. But, it's crazy, back, I was born in 1986. So, early 90s, especially, you're outside a lot, lots of sports, video games, stuff like that. But pretty, I guess, somewhat pretty normal.
Yeah. Well, outside of hockey then, what were some of the other sports that you participated in as a kid?
Oh, God. Just about everything. I played, baseball, basketball, little bit of football, I guess what you would call the major sports out here, right? So,
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of professional wrestling, obviously. So that was like a big part of my life as well.
Oh, we'll get there.
Yeah. But no, I played a little bit of everything, and even if it wasn't like a, like an organized league or team, you just, you end up playing with your friends, recess at school, just, in the park, etc.
Yeah. Well, tell me, was your dad ever a coach of one of your childhood sports teams? I know my dad was.
No way. No way.
No.
But I tell you, he made it to basically all my games, and believe it or not, he would just sit there. He wasn't one of these parents that were, arguing with the ref or arguing with the coach. He came and he watched. He always, supported me and my sister.
Well, the one that
Nice.
it seemed like the one thing that you do get from the doco is it seemed like he was like your number one fan. Like he'd be there at everything, right? He'd be cheering loud, but not getting out of control.
Yeah, no, he definitely, he wasn't one of those guys where he wanted to be, noticed. He wouldn't be, acting nuts or anything. But no, he always made it to, the majority of, me and my sisters, whether it's games or school activities, things like that.
Cool. No, all right. Well, let's talk about you as a young hockey player. What age did you start playing hockey? What was the sort of catalyst to get you to join?
Well, like it said in the documentary, it was when I think it was, oh God, I may be off. I mean, maybe 1993 when the Mighty Ducks came out, the movie. I don't know exactly. I don't know what exactly it was about that movie, because like I said, I mean, hockey out here wasn't like a hotbed for hockey out here. So, it was just like we didn't even have an ice rink here, in Danbury at the time. So it was like, I saw the movie and I don't know what it was about it. I loved it. And I remember begging my mom to take me to the sports store. We ended up getting like some street hockey sticks and balls or pucks and, eventually rollerblades. And, you kind of just teach yourself.
Yeah.
And then I want to say I was probably 9, maybe 9 or 10 when I finally like made it to the ice, I guess. And
Right.
We had to actually cross into New York State because, like I said, Danbury didn't have an ice arena at the time. So, a lot of those getting up early, getting to the rink, getting ice time and all of that. So, it was early on.
Yeah. Yeah. And mom would drive you to the games then? Yeah.
Oh, of
Hockey
course,
mom.
My mom was a very big hockey mom. Yeah, she would
Yeah.
Awesome.
load up the bag and try to figure out how to keep the equipment from smelling the way it would. And, trying to, I don't know what it is about hockey equipment. It's just, it's brutal. But she would try to find, she was like a scientist. I remember growing up trying to find any way to like get that odor out, and it just never seemed to work.
Couple Febreze squirts, a bounce sheet, like whatever it takes.
Yeah. The Febreze sheets and I mean, at one point it looked like a scarecrow. She bought this stand and you would put the piece of equipment on like each thing and nothing seemed to work though. They used to drive her crazy.
That's a true hockey.
Oh,
mom.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, so when you joined hockey, like the doco sort of indicated you got a goalie stick. Were you a goalie when you started?
No, I actually, that was, my favorite team was the New Jersey Devils. So that Christmas, in the documentary, it was actually like a signed stick from Martin Brodeur from the Devils.
Oh, sweet.
And, yeah. So that was like a big piece of memorabilia. I still have it somewhere, but I remember we put it up in my
That's
room.
awesome.
And, I did try, I got to tell you, I did, in our little in-house league, our little club leagues, I did play goalie 2-3 times and it just wasn't for me. But I ended up, in those little in-house leagues, I was actually, 11, 12 years old. I hit a growth spurt pretty early. So I was dominating out there in these little leagues. And, I was a big kid at the time. And I was just like a man amongst boys in that league. And I was just putting up big numbers. And I was thinking I was some sort of goal scorer. And then, as you get older, it all starts to even out. Guys get bigger too. And, I realized quickly that my future as a left wing wasn't gonna go too far for myself. So I ended up converting over to defense because nobody wanted to play defense, and I figured that was my only way I was gonna be able to stick on the ice.
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of indicated, like, so very similar to you. I had puberty at a young age, and I was a man amongst boys, and I quickly found that the contact was my game. And
Yeah.
it seemed like in the doco, the same sort of stood true for you as well. And even though maybe the other kids got as big, you were still a heavy hitter.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things, even in a high school level. And again, this wasn't a big time high school program, but it was high school hockey. And, I just realized my game was going to be like that true stay-at-home defenseman, not really worrying about putting points up, rather trying to keep guys from scoring, and not a lot of kids wanted to play that role at that time. You know what I mean? Everyone wants to be the one with the points or the goals or the puck. I just, I kind of just dedicated myself, I just kind of mentally told myself, this is the way I'm going to play. And, I played very physical, obviously. I used to love Scott Stevens on the Devils, big hitter. So, I would just try to model my game as much as possible, after him.
Yeah, you must have idolized all the Devils at that time. That was just they had some unbelievable teams in your youth.
Yeah, we had. I tell you, I got it. My first hockey game, I think, was 93 or 94. It was Devils Penguins. And look, my dad knew nothing about hockey. If he took me to a Rangers game, I probably would be a Ranger fan right now, but that was the first game I ever went to. And I just, the Devils, mid to late 90s, early 2000s, we just always had a solid team, especially on defense. So that's kind of what I gravitated towards.
Nice. Okay. Well, look, sort of a good segue in. So look, the doco indicated that, look, there was the hit, right? And it had a physical impact on you. I guess I just wanted to ask you about, walk me through the hit, what happened? How did you deal with then, I guess, having to give up hockey? What impact psychologically did it have? Physically? How did you, walk me through it.
Well, it was my senior year of high school, and it was our second game. It was like real early into the season. And I remember, I think the disappointing thing for me was I remember having a really good summer prepping, having a good camp. My senior year, I was still going to be physical, but I wanted to really concentrate on, not worrying about laying someone out every time I'm on the ice. You know what I mean? So I was trying to concentrate more on helping us win. And, that hit, it's kind of karma because, I was always priding myself on laying the lumber, right? So I ended up just hitting this kid. I went down with him. I came up and I just went right back down. I don't know why. And I didn't feel any pain or anything, but I just couldn't get the strength to get myself up. It was weird. And I was trying to get up. I couldn't get up, the ref blows the whistle, obviously the coaches come out. And I just remember being like, I can't get up. And, it was my right knee and, totally just tore it up. And, we drove to the, hospital that night. When I took my pads off, my knee is just blown up, pretty heavy. And, you kind of know it's not good. And the doctor said, listen, you're going to need a few surgeries and, your senior year's over, that's it, and it was tough, because look, I knew realistically I probably wasn't going to make it past high school hockey. That's just the reality. So, that was my last kind of hurrah at it. And, to have it ended short was kind of tough, but at the same time, it's part of the game.
Yeah.
That would be tough.
Yeah.
It's just one of those freak accidents,
Yeah, definitely a freak thing. Yeah.
Wow.
This is in high school hockey, right? This was
senior in high school. Yep.
Man, hockey's, I'm Canadian and, grew up playing hockey and I still play hockey. It is my sole passion. To have to deal with having to give it up would be a real big pill to swallow.
It's tough. When you get into high school, typically you kind of narrow down your sport. And for me, it was hockey. I gave up baseball and all the other ones and, it's tough. But again, it's one of those things that it comes with the territory, especially back in those days. You know, the physicality was a big part of the game. So, you know, it's just, you know, I've been on both ends of it, and it was just an unfortunate thing. But you know, you just try to move on.
Have you ever gotten the opportunity to get back on the ice?
You know, it's funny you say that, because people have been asking me about that. Believe it or not, I may have not with pads or a stick or anything. I may have ice skated since 2004, maybe 3-4 times, like a little handful of times. I haven't, and I could go back on if I wanted to. It's just I just haven't, and you know, it's just you know, it's kind of a little like PTSD. You know, you worry, you know, you get those cuts, and it's like, oh God, I just remember the pain, and you know, what a recovery, what
you
a
just don't want to go through it again.
Yeah, it's just it really wasn't even the pain on the ice. It was just a recovery process with those surgeries. It was brutal with the, you know, physical therapy, and it was just nuts.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, great attitude, man. You've moved on, right? You got other interests now. I guess looking back on your hockey career, who was your biggest sort of influence as a kid in the game?
Oh, like who I was a fan of, or how I would watch, or
look, how for me would be sort of like, you know, who, like for me personally, I had a coach that made a big impact on the way I play and the way I thought about the game. Like you, big heavy hitter, but he made me realize that, you know, you can be a lot more. So that sort of influence on the game, you know.
I mean, you know, I had a bunch of coaches growing up. You know, it's weird because Danbury, like, I kind of grew up with hockey the same time Danbury was growing up with hockey. Like, we got a rink in 2002, right? So it's kind of like everyone around here was kind of green, and, you know, even the coaches were learning on the go too, almost. So, you know, it was a weird situation. You know, but I had, you know, there's too many to name, you know, a lot of different guys, and you know, people that would help you. You know, my high school coaches were good. But, you know, a lot of it is, you know, a lot of it was me. I'm not saying it was totally this way, but I self-taught myself a lot too. And, you know, I would study the game a lot, you know, NHL especially, you know, obviously. I mean, I would really, you know, I would study those games and kind of like really take an interest and watch it. And, you know, certain players I would watch and really try to, you know, it was a lot harder than you'd have to actually watch. You know, there wasn't YouTube or anything back then. So you had to actually catch the games, you know, so. But
you got to invest a lot of time.
A lot of time, you know, setting up the VCR to tape games if you had to. I mean,
people don't know today.
No, it's crazy. It's crazy even now thinking of the, you know, the process. You know, it was like you should do the same thing with wrestling. You set up the VCR, and, you know, you know, you hope when you come home it recorded. It's insane.
Nobody's pressed stop or recorded over it. Yeah,
sounds exactly like this Zoom call. I'm hoping it works. See, that's one thing. That's one thing I got from watching the doco that I love so much, is because unless you're from that era, like our era, you realize that most of that footage is probably you or one of your buddies with a camcorder, and then it having to be like on tapes and everything else.
On a tape,
like, I could just
like
imagine.
a mini tape.
No, I mean,
you know?
Listen, I mean, a lot of people have asked me that, and you know, I literally have home video from like 1986 when I was born to like now. And my mom, my mom, and, you know, you appreciate it. You know, I'm 35 now. You appreciate it just so much more now that you have this. But my mom would always have the camera, family functions, games. And I got into it early, like, you know, around 10, 11 years old. I would like to take the camera and, you'd see me shaking it all over the place, trying to learn how to work it. And, but yeah, I mean, it went from like those big VHS tapes, then they went to little discs and then DVDs, and now everything's USB. And, you just convert it, and you just, it's important, I think it's important to have it. And I'm very lucky to have a lot of this footage, just not even hockey stuff, just like personal tapes. It's cool to see.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, I want to touch back on your time as a GM. So look, I saw the doco, and it really portrayed you as a very young man that took on a great responsibility, and maybe a little wet behind the ears. It didn't seem that way, AJ. You had great success, amazing success as a young GM, running, a semi-professional team. You just seemed to have that knack. You knew the kind of product you wanted, and how to market it to, like, just amazing, man. And when I first saw you in the documentary, I thought, oh my God, this poor kid. He has no idea.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, AJ, I had so much respect for what you accomplished. Like, so look, you had an amazing run over was it 2 seasons?
Yeah,
the
2 full seasons.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the product and the fan base that you developed. Look, had you stuck around, or had the Trashers stuck around, would you have stuck in the industry? Look, I mean, with 2 years as a GM under your belt and the success that you had, I think honestly, AJ, you'd probably be able to work your way up to the big leagues. Is that something you think you would have done had the Trashers stayed on?
It's a great question. And a few people, it's so weird. Nobody, so we lost the team, unfortunately, in 2006. No one from like 2006 until like now has anyone asked me, has any other team approached you about maybe a job or something like that? It's so weird, because I never thought of it. No one ever asked me. It's no one. I don't know, and I don't know if I would have done it without my father anyway. But it's weird to think that. No, I never. Maybe people just thought it was a product of, an inflated salary cap or something, or things of that nature. But no, I never was broached to do something like that.
No. Yeah. No, I mean, it's an awesome resume, man. Ran a team, went to the championships, and just amazing, man. Congratulations, just amazing. So, look, if you were able to do it all again, would you change anything?
No, absolutely not.
No?
I think there are some minor things, I guess, maybe player and personnel wise, maybe, there were a few.
It's on the cut list.
It's actually the opposite. There was 1 or 2 guys from the first season that, for one reason or the other, it didn't work out for the second season. But if I could go back, there might be a couple guys from the first season that didn't make it to the second season that maybe we could have intertwined it in there. But honestly, other than that, no, I don't. No, not one regret, honestly.
Yeah, no. Well, good, man, good. All right, well, look, I'm gonna break away from hockey and talk a little bit about just some things I'm guessing here. All right, so looking from the doco and the sort of clothes and style that you had, I'm guessing you were a bit of a R&B sort of rap guy.
Yeah, that's a good assumption. Yes, definitely.
So look, I was also a very I was very big into rap and R&B growing up. So tell me, who was your favorite R&B or rap artist? Who was your first sort of love in that industry?
Oh, DMX. That was
Nice.
what I tell people. I'm the last one to ask like music questions about, because I'm not like one of these music. It doesn't matter what genre it is. I'm not a guy that like, I didn't study the history of like, hip hop and R&B. I listen to music for energy, like, whether it was for sports or whatever. And to me, growing up, DMX, a lot of, we're so close to New York City here. So a lot of the, East Coast guys, just that energy, you listen to before games or anything like that. Yeah. But those were, DMX was always my go-to. And Jesus, what was it back then? Like a Walkman or an iPod or whatever.
A Discman.
Discman, yes, that's what it was. Yes.
The Discman was the flash one.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. That's right.
That was the one.
There were the yellow Walkmans that were like waterproof. They had the water buttons and the tight water seal around it. I was always jealous of that Walkman. I wanted that.
No. It started off with cassette tapes and CDs, and now it's, I don't even, it's, I guess Spotify or whatever. I don't know.
That's your watch.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Now your watch does it.
Yeah.
All right. So last question, AJ. Just want to say thank you for answering my questions. It's been a lot of fun. So today here in New Zealand, well, it's not in New Zealand, but today here on this side of the world is a huge event. It's an event that stops everyone. The whole Oceania basically stops.
It's like the Super Bowl.
To watch this race. Do you know what race I'm talking about?
No, but I'm excited to know now. This sounds big.
It's huge, man. It's huge. So it's called the Melbourne Cup. It's a horse race. I don't know if you're a betting man, but today a lot of money, probably a couple $100 million will exchange hands in some form or another. So Melbourne Cup Day, I need you to pick a number between 1 and 24. I'll throw $20 down on that number, and if we are a winner, we will split the winnings with you. Give me that number, AJ Galante. Hit it.
17. 17. It's got to be.
17. She was only 17. Excellent. Excellent. I will mark that down. I've got two more. We'll get a box trifecta going. AJ Galante, it's been a pleasure interviewing you. I am going to hand it over to Punchy with the second period. Pleasure interviewing you. I am going to hand it over to Punchy with the second period.
All right, sweet. Here we go. Okay, I'm just going to take a pause here, guys, because we set this up in a Zoom meeting, so I might have to re-up because it says we got 9 minutes left. So I might have to do a secondary meeting.
Oh shit! I took way too much time. Damn.
Is that all right? Okay. Is that all right with you, AJ? You got another half hour or so with us?
Whatever you need, no problem.
Okay, so what I might have to do is I might have to end this one, and then we'll start up a secondary one. And
all right, yeah.
Okay.
So I'll open that up while we're sitting here. And maybe what I'll do is I'll run for the first 8 minutes, and then I'll set up the second one after it. All right. So here we go. Okay, so moving into the second period here. One thing that I saw in the doco, and I know that we've done a full episode before about wrestling. Okay, so in which and it seems to be that we came through the same era. So like we came through the same. So we got to know a little bit about the birthday party. So from the interviews that I've heard. You had The Rock, all these ones, and China ate your burgers. China ate all your food. Right?
Everything.
And like Rockabilly was there, and everybody, they crushed your dreams. When you went to go see them, was it Hunter Hearst Helmsley ripped your whole soul out of your chest?
Yeah.
Okay. so what was another cool, what was the best show other than those two that you got to go see live? Most memorable one.
Oh God. I'll break this.
When you started watching, was it WWF or WWE?
Oh yeah, that's a good question.
WWF.
All day long.
WWF.
Right.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
And growing up, you had WWF and you had WCW, and my friends were split down the middle, and it was almost like gangs. Like I wanted nothing to do with WCW guys, and it was like I took it. I can't even tell you how serious I mean.
You probably could because we know.
I have, you talk about tapes. I have all my old backyard wrestling tapes. I mean, we had like wrestling names. We had there was only 8 of us, and
That's awesome.
only 8 of us. Our whole audience was 8 people. It was ourselves, and it was like, I was a bad guy naturally. That was my name was Chaos with a K. And, it was like, but no, I mean, getting back to the question, I mean, I've been to so many live events. I mean, oh God, I went to in 2000, I think it was February. I went to No Way Out. It was in Hartford, Connecticut, actually. And, it was when it was Cactus Jack versus Triple H in a Hell in a Cell, and Triple
nice.
H.
Oh, Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, Triple H, Cactus Jack, they ended up on top of the cell, and Cactus Jack was going to pile drive him, and Triple H kind of flipped him, and Cactus Jack went through the cage, through the ring. It was insane. I was like 13 at the time. It was like the greatest thing in the world to me. But I haven't been to a WrestleMania. That's definitely on a bucket list, somewhere down the line. But yeah, I've been to so many. It's
That's awesome.
It's like it.
So who was your all-time fave? Who's your all-time favorite wrestler?
Oh, that's another tough one. I mean, I gotta go Stone Cold. That was my guy.
Okay.
Because
drinking a beer in the ring.
He was a good guy, but he wasn't. He was kind of in the middle, and
he was the everyman.
Undertaker is a very close second.
Who is your biggest wrestling crush?
Well, my wife's in the kitchen. Let me see. I would say back then, I don't know. I mean, look, I don't know what 10-year-old kid didn't like Sunny, right?
Yeah.
Growing up, Sunny. Yeah, that was the woman back then. You know what I mean? And now she's an elephant.
A bike.
No offense.
Now she's like the bike.
I feel bad saying that, but it's crazy. It's crazy. But no, I mean, matter of fact, this is a true story. Sonny came to the Danbury Mall for a signing, and me and my buddy Mike, I was probably 11, 12. We probably waited online for 2 hours to meet her. And so I'll say that was my wrestling crush.
Sonny. So Chaos was your name in the backyard. What was the finishing move called?
So I used Chris Benoit. So believe it or not, I had a submission, which is weird. But so Chris Benoit had the crippler crossface. I called it the chaotic crossface, real original.
Nice.
And that was, but it was more of an ECW type of thing, because we had, it was more of a hardcore type of. I had maybe 3 moves, and the rest of the time I was just hitting people with things.
Nice.
And instead of chairs, we would use my buddy's. So we, long story short, we would do it outside of my buddy's house when his mom wouldn't be home, and we would take all her, from the kitchen, we would take all her cookie sheets, like the aluminum cookie sheets. And,
awesome.
Instead of chairs, we were just laying into each other with these cookie sheets, and, I mean, just insane. I mean, I feel like watching.
Could you imagine the neighbors looking over the fence?
We did at one point have the police called on us once, because they thought it was like a real like fight was going on. And then when we showed the police the camera, they started laughing and they were like, "All right, don't worry about
That's
it."
awesome.
But yeah, that's good times.
Did you ever have a tag partner?
No, well,
Or you always worked alone?
I was always, you know what it was? I was like the real heel of the group. There was 8 of us, and it was like, back then when there was big groups and factions like Nation of Domination, Degeneration X, we kind of had our little federation split into 2. So I was like a hybrid. I was with this one team, but I was always like kind of on my own. So I was always, you never knew what I was, capable of doing.
Unbelievably, that's my next question. What was the name of the federation that you wrestled for?
HTV, Hardcore Television.
Nice. Nice. And what was the name of the title? What was the name of the belt?
HTV title, and I have it. I was the only 2-time champion, and we all rotated it. Throughout like 2.5 years, we all rotated. But listen. We would have lunch at school and have like production storyline meetings. Okay. We had
Awesome.
we had interviews, we had storylines, the whole 9 yards. And we were the only ones watching it.
I think we know the next Doco right now. This is your next Doco.
Well, that's the dream. I love hockey, but the dream is, if the World Wrestling Entertainment could find a place for me, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Nice. Because you helped out with the draft and you let everybody know you were coming on the show. We've had a bunch of guys, tell us things that we should ask you that they want to know the answers to. So kind of mix those in here a little bit as well. So I'm going to go back to like right where kind of Somerville he kind of left off, and he was saying that like we discussed the hit. So one thing I kind of heard a little bit about in one of your interviews was that, like, and you even see in the doco that when you do this press conference, you're still on crutches. So, like, you're only a few days out, right? Or what was that? Days or weeks? Or
yeah. So with the press conference, I think it was from January of 2004 through June of So in the span of 6 months, I had 3 surgeries. And so that press conference, it's funny. It was like maybe a few weeks after my first one. And if you see me talking, I'm slurring my words. I was on so much Percocet from the medication that, it's funny because they're trying to paint me as a guy that did, don't get me wrong. At the time, I wasn't the best at public speaking, but they try to paint me as like a real young kid at the podium, but I was on this medication. I was like, I could barely keep my eyes open. So yeah, it was relatively right after that first surgery there.
Okay. So, and the one thing I kind of heard too is that although in the doco, it's kind of like at school, you kind of found out about the team and stuff like that, but there was actually like a talk, right? Like your dad asked you if you wanted to do this, or how did that go?
I guess you could call it a talk. It was basically like the Sunday. It was like it's so funny.
I'm too old to have the sex talk, Dad.
Yeah, it's so funny because I wish I had like a much cooler story of how this whole started, but it literally, the first time it was ever spoken of was on a Sunday night. We're having dinner. And he kind of like nonchalantly says he's going to start this team. And, look, my dad's a very serious, my dad's a serious guy, but he likes to joke around a lot too, and, I thought he was joking. So I kind of was like playing along with him. I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds good. And he was just like, yeah, you're going to run it, this and that, get some real on the job training and all this other stuff.
I'll run it.
And I was like, yeah, sure, Dad. No problem. I'll do it.
Pass the potatoes.
That was literally like a 50-second conversation, and that was it. And like later, like maybe 5 days later, it was in the paper. I mean, no warning or anything. It was just like in the paper. And I didn't know what to say. And the funniest thing, the funniest thing about this story that, obviously wasn't in the documentary was, so I'm at school and I'm looking at this and I'm like, what the hell? It's crazy. So I end up, obviously I go home and he comes home and it was like the elephant in the room. And it was like we were playing chicken. We didn't say a word about it to each other.
Really, eh?
It was like not a word. I didn't ask him. I wasn't like, Dad, like what the hell? It was nothing. He didn't say, he didn't say anything to me. It was like the most quiet dinner I ever had. No one said a word. It was like everyone knew but didn't say anything. I mean, super weird. And I remember like going to bed and being like, I got to get out of this. I can't do this. And it was kind of like, well, hey, listen, I gave him my word I'd do it. So we woke up. I woke up the next day and literally it was like we start going to work. It was like the weirdest. There was no like. It was just the weirdest thing. It really was.
So how does that happen? So the next day you're in charge. So when you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you do?
Literally, it might as well have been crayons. We started writing things out. I mean, we were like.
So at this point, you have did you have a name yet?
He knew he wanted it to be. There was no other alternative. It was Trashers the whole time.
Okay, yeah. Sweet.
And because of his garbage companies. And to be honest, I hated the name at first. I didn't like it. I thought it was stupid. I was like, this is the dumbest thing in the world. And, and I don't know, it just, when eventually we got the logo and I saw it, I was like, okay, I see it now.
So did you have a hand in that? Like, did you chicken scratch, like draw out like what you kind of wanted?
So that was a guy, his name is Dominic. So he lives in Danbury to this day, and it's really weird. So when the newspaper came out, he has a marketing firm in Manhattan in the city, and he was taking the train from Danbury to Manhattan one day, and he literally sketched out that logo on the train.
Oh, really?
Fax it to my dad's office, and we're like, this is it. This is the logo, and that was it. That's all she wrote.
Did that have the colors? Was the color scheme already initiated right there, or is that something that you added afterwards?
So we were going to be silver and black the whole time because we're Raiders fans.
Yeah.
And so it was just going to be silver and black. But the league rule was you have to, for whatever the reason, you have to have 3 colors in the logo for whatever the reason. So we just added the royal blue in there. But it was always going to be silver and black. It was always going to be Trashers. And, there literally was no alternative.
I love those jerseys. I love those personally. And I like all the different versions of them as well.
They're expensive as hell now, though.
You got to keep them fresh. And, we did, like in minor league hockey, you do the specialty versions sometimes. And, I gotta get my hands on one of those, the St. Patty's Day one that I saw. Oh, yeah. A lot of people have been asking about those ones. Yeah.
Those look tidy.
Yeah.
So now you get to the rink. I'm assuming now you have an office at the rink as the GM. Is that how that worked out?
We literally ended up like my dad actually, believe it or not, like on his own dime, he renovated a lot of the rink to like make this fit. I mean, we had to get like a, legit locker room area, the whole 9 yards. So yeah, eventually it was literally only ready like a week before the season started. Like, so we I ended up having, an office up there, in the locker room.
Okay. So when you started though, so day one, where are you working from and where do you start? Like, do you what were you using? Like, were you looking for were you on Hockey DB? Like nowadays you have Hockey DB.
I lived on HockeyDB.com. I mean, that was literally when I tell you we created a team off the internet. Like, when we first started, you got to remember, me or my dad, we'd never been in hockey. Mm-hmm. So we didn't know anyone to begin with. And literally, it's like, I hate to say it, it was it was almost like a video game. It was like we in the beginning, we were just figuring things out, you know, off this website, and, you know, you start making contacts with other guys, and, you know, who this guy knows this guy, and you just start putting things together.
Did you have an expansion draft? Like, did you get to pull
We
certain
did, but
guys
we
in?
didn't. We did, but just to make the league mad, we didn't actually claim any of those guys. So we didn't.
Oh,
That's awesome.
Like we didn't want, like we just didn't want, like we didn't want to feel like we were getting scraps, you know what I mean? So we were like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's fine. We got their rights, but we just like released them. You know, we're like, just whatever, you know, and
And you get to know your guys and sign the guys that you wanted to be trash.
yeah, exactly.
That's awesome.
Exactly. And you know, it was you know, you still held on to their rights and stuff, but we were like, yeah, whatever, we're okay.
What was your first question as a 17-year-old kid to like a, you know, 10-year professional hockey playing veteran? What was your first question to the guys?
You know, that's a great, you know, it's so weird. That's a really good question. You know, what happened is every time we'd eventually make contact with these guys, or they'd come in to see us, and they were so taken back by the whole situation. They'd see me and my dad, and they'd always have the same expression of like, what the hell is going on? And it was like, but like within 10, 15 minutes, I think they felt like super comfortable. They're like, this is like, it's like us talking, right? It's not like any pressure. It's just like, you know, we're regular guys, you know, and you know, we didn't carry ourselves like we're above you type of thing. And I think I'd say the majority of them, they all bought in, you know, and they had to take a leap of faith.
That's awesome. So now you're a GM. Who, like, if you're a player and you make it to the show, you're always going to remember your first point or your first game or whatever it is. So who is the first guy you signed?
So in the documentary, people assume it's Gretzky, but it's not. It's actually Brad Wingfield.
Oh, okay.
Wingfield, yeah, we started with the toughness right away. Brad Wingfield was the first official signee, but you know, for marketing purposes and other reasons, we announced, you know, Brent Gretzky as our first guy. Yeah,
and that's what I mean. Like, that's that genius marketing. It just, yeah, it got me as a 17-year-old. For you to think to do that was incredible, man. Real smart. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, look, I appreciate the credit, but you know, it was all a team effort. We all kind of collaborated, and you know, it's just funny, just some of the ideas that went back and forth, and you know, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But that was one of those that, you know, we set the tone real early on.
And actually, when you say that, you team there, like that's very similar to like Somerville and I with our league. We have like a team that we kind of do everything with. So those people that were with you in the Trashers, are you still like good friends with a lot of them today, or?
Yeah, you know, it's weird, you know, especially with social media. It's a little easier to keep up with a lot of the guys, the old players. I mean, forget it. And you know, since the Netflix thing, you know, a lot of guys been reaching out and vice versa. And you know, and some of the staff too, you know, some of them are still in the area. Some aren't, but you know, it's a lot easier with social media, obviously, to, you know, keep track tabs of people. So yeah, I mean, you know, some people you obviously, you know, might communicate more than others, but for the most part, you know, we've since this documentary's come out, I've talked to a lot of the guys.
That's awesome. So going back to signing, so who's your most memorable signing?
Probably, and believe it or not, it really wasn't me that. So Mike Rupp, obviously, you know, especially during the NHL lockout, you know, in the year and a half prior, I saw him Game 7 win the Stanley Cup for the Devils. I mean, that was like one of those surreal, crazy moments.
Yeah, that is insane.
It really is.
Insane.
It really is. But I got to tell you, I think the thing I've always had a lot of pride in was trading for One Eye Willie, David Beauregard, who was in the documentary. And, you know, he was a guy that just used to kill us when we played against him. And, you know, I remember the first time I saw him, the first season, he was playing on Port Huron. And he came out. I didn't know him, you know nothing about majority of these people in this league. And, you know, he had that big fishbowl helmet and visor, right? And, you know, back then, you know, guys either had the half shield or nothing. And I'm like, and I asked one of our healthy scratches at the time, I'm like, who is this guy? And they're like, oh, that's David Beauregard. You know, he lost his eye a few years ago. He was like this elite prospect, you know, lost his eye. I'm like, he lost his eye. And it was honestly, you know, not to sound dramatic, he was the most amazing, probably pound for pound, the most amazing hockey player I ever saw in my life. Because even with one eye, I mean, sniper, I mean, this guy, and I would try to get under his skin. I would try to chirp at him from the box and stuff. And, you know, he'd be chirping back at me and he backed it up. I mean, he used to just kill us. And I remember in the second season, he ended up, you know, that franchise ended up moving to, I want to say, Roanoke, Virginia. But anyway, you know, we're coming close to the trade deadline. And my personal philosophy was, unless you're undefeated at the trade deadline, you could always improve. And, you know, I always felt you had to make a move at the trade deadline. Even if it's the most minor thing, you had to.
Yeah.
And fans were anticipating it. It was like, you know, and we were going into this trade deadline. We were slumping and we weren't looking that great. And we just were going through a stretch where we couldn't put pucks in the net. And I convinced, you know, I told my dad, look, we got to try to get this Beauregard, you know, and he was leading the league in goals. He's on a horrible team. And the way I sold it to my dad was, if he's putting up these type of numbers on a crap team, what do you think he could do for us? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember it was my spring break of my sophomore year in college. I spent days trying to figure a way, and, you know, we got it to happen. So I've always had pride in that one, because the minute he came in, just everything changed. I mean, we started going on a streak. We got hot going into the playoffs, and he actually scored the overtime goal in the semifinals to get us to the Colonial Cup. So, you know, we came up short in the finals, obviously, that year, but he you know, that playoff, I mean, if you go on Hockey DB and look at his playoff numbers, it was insane. I mean, he just was carrying us.
Well, you kind of got to my last one there about being a GM, which was, what was your best trade you ever made? I think you just explained it to us. So now here's one that. So if you don't know, we're missing our goalie tonight. We're missing Langer. And one thing Langer always loves to join us for is the road trips. So we got to know, you had one of the sickest buses that I've ever seen for a non-full professional team. That bus is ridiculous. So we got to know a little bit about the road trip. Okay, so when you're on the road with the team, was the bus actually owned by the team or was it hired? Like,
no, it was all my dad. That was my dad bought that, and it was one of my dad's prides and joy, that bus. I mean, I remember the day, you know, he told me, oh, the bus got done. They painted it. They wrapped it with graphics. I remember when he told me that, you know, that day in the summer, you know, going into the first season, he's like, come on, the bus is ready. And, you know, his face, I remember that was one of the happiest I ever saw him when that bus rolled out. And, you know, I don't know how many other, you know, one thing I can say, I don't know how many other GMs could say this, but my mom wouldn't let me go on the road. So I don't have, you know, that's one of my great regrets. I don't have any stories about the road because my mother wouldn't let me go. So
she's a good mom. She knew.
Yeah,
knew.
Yeah.
No, she's like, listen.
She knew better.
She's like, listen. She's like, nope. You gotta do your. You know, I had to do my schoolwork and this and that. So, unfortunately, maybe it's actually fortunate, but unfortunately, I don't have any stories for you there.
Okay, well, we'll just cross off that whole section.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
I'm trying to.
okay,
The
so
road is out.
did Jimmy
I'm
ever
trying to-
go? Did Jimmy ever go
Huh?
on the bus with the boys?
No, I don't think so either. I mean, he really, to be honest with you, he was so busy anyway. I mean, he made every home game. We made every single home game, but we did, during the playoffs, like when we played Adirondack in upstate New York, like we would drive up together, me and him and stuff like that. But, depending on his schedule, but it was always crazy. But, I always picture a media member asking like Lou Lamorello, have you been on the bus trip? And he says, no, my mom won't let me. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's something I take pride in, the fact that I can say that my mother wouldn't let me go to the road games.
So what you're saying is for the 2 seasons the Trashers were chaperoned by T-Bone?
Yeah, basically, yes. I mean that's as scary as it gets. But yes.
I'm not gonna lie. The first time I watched the doco, I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. And then they showed T-Bone and he goes, cocaine's a hell of a drug. I was like, oh, strap your boot seats in. This is gonna be a gooder.
Nut job.
Well, then you got to spend some time in the room, right? In the room, in and around the rink, right?
Yeah.
So we know that you pulled a lot of pranks on some of the other teams. What are some of the best pranks that you've seen one Trasher do to another?
There wasn't a lot of Trasher on Trasher prank crimes that I witnessed in the locker room, but what I did see was, so we had 2 TVs in there. We had a couple PlayStations and stuff, and the guys, I mean, it would get real heated. A lot of the guys would enjoy playing the FIFA soccer games for some reason. They loved playing that, and there was a lot of controversy. I saw a lot of heated exchanges over some guy thinking, well, this one's cheating or this and that, and like, it was there was a lot of video game shenanigans going on.
Yeah. Well, they almost get more heated than the actual hockey game, right?
Yes.
It is serious business.
Now, listen, I promised Brad Wingfield that I would say this on every podcast until he admits it. So the summer going into the second season, Brad, Winger, he stayed in Danbury. When, all the guys go home during the offseason, he stayed to rehab his leg. And he lived in my house for like 2 months, with my family. And one weekend we decided, it was probably EA Sports NHL 05 or something. And we're going to have like a best of 21 game series this weekend, right? And I was always the Devils. He was always the Vancouver Canucks because he's from out there. And I beat him so bad. And he cried and whined like a little baby all weekend. And I hope he hears this because I told him until he admits it, I'm going to tell every podcast I'm on. And he would sit there. He had this big, huge brace on his leg. And, he couldn't get to me, so I was confident, so I would.
What are you going to do, Brad?
Yeah, I'd be chirping him, and he was so, he was sick about it. I was beating him so bad. And, back in those video games, Marty Brodeur, you can't score on me, and, and he, oh man, he was sick to death over what I did to him.
Oh, that's great.
That's
great.
Awesome. Okay, can you give us one thing that you haven't said on any other interview about a prank that you and T-Bone pulled on a visiting team that nobody knows about yet?
Oh man, I don't know if I've said it, and I don't know if we've said it. I don't know if I've said it in one of these or not, but one that if I have, it's not very often. I do remember, when Adirondack came to town, that was our arch rival. So we always like something had to happen when they came, like without a doubt. And I remember once getting a phone call I remember once getting a phone call from the commissioner, Richard Brissell, when right before the game started. And he said, I just got a call from the Adirondack coach. You know, half of their benches sawed off. And they're like, they don't have anywhere to sit. And I was like, well, I don't know. Why don't you call the rink? I have no idea. And, you know, we didn't own the rink. So I'm like, you have to call the rink. Maybe something happened. I don't know. And, oh, man, that's an annoying thing. I know if you guys know playing hockey, I mean, you know, after a long shift, you can't even sit on the bench. You have to stand and, you know, I was like, I don't know, Mr. Brissell. I mean, I'll give you the general manager of the rink, the maintenance. I don't know what happened.
And I can imagine this is like in the 10 minutes before the game starts that they find out.
I said, well, look, if Adirondack wants to forfeit, that's fine. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, awesome.
That's awesome.
Okay, so I'm not sure if you've had awards for the Danbury Trashers or not, but I have 4 awards that I'd like you to give out on behalf as the former GM of the team. So the best player that never made it to the show.
David Beauregard.
David Beauregard. The most feared player by all the other teams.
Gotta be, I mean, it's cliche, but it's Wingfield, definitely. Or a close second would be Rumen Ender, for sure.
Who's the ultimate?
Yeah.
Who is the ultimate fan favorite that didn't appear in the doc?
Alex Goupel. Now he played he was one of the few that played 2 full seasons with us, and he was a young kid, early 20s, I'd say. He was probably the closest in age to me. Like, we were close because we were so close in age, and you know, he could do it all. I mean, he wasn't a big fighter, but he could if he had to. He was a big fan favorite. Yeah,
he was a big scorer for you guys too.
Yeah. Number 26, Alex Goupel. Yep.
Beauty. So the best overall trasher. If you had to give him one little if you had to give him the diamond encrusted trash can, who if you had to hand it off?
Oh God. Oh my God, that's a really tough one. You know, it's tough. It's a great debate too locally, because the 2 seasons you had a couple guys that were on both teams, but there were a lot of main players that were different on both teams. So it's kind of like, it's always that debate, who was the better trasher team the first year or the second year. Mm-hmm. But to name the best overall, oh God, I would say, you know, because I might run into him soon and I don't want a problem, I'm gonna have to say Brad Wingfield. It's gotta be Wingfield.
Awesome. And then before I finish off, I got two people that I want you to tell me a story about. Section 102, the best story best memory you have of Section 102.
Easily, and it wasn't in the documentary, was our first season. We ended up going to the playoffs, and the first round was against Adirondack, again, arch rival. They had home ice advantage, so the first 2 games were up there. That rink was probably a little over 3 hours from Danbury. So the first game was a Friday night. We won in overtime. Then the second game, a bunch of the guys from Section 102 came up for the game, maybe like 50 of them. And
nice.
Yeah, my dad actually rented like a bus for them, and they came up. And it goes to triple overtime, right? So our guys are they're spent, you know, going into the third overtime. These guys, some of them were on IVs. They were like dehydrated. I mean, it was just, you know, you guys know how playoff hockey is to begin with, but especially arch rivals, it was on the road. So these guys were sweating. They were literally sweating through their undershirts. And word got up to a bunch of our guys in Section 102, and they literally came down, took their dry T-shirts off their back, and gave it to our guys. And these guys, you know, picture a few dozen And they're not going to be models anytime soon either. A few dozen of these Section 102 guys sitting with no shirt on in the rink for the third overtime because our guys are wearing their T-shirt. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget them for that, ever. And we ended up winning the game.
And the bond between those guys and Section 102 it's unreal. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, one of the biggest cliche I hate, one of the biggest things I hate about sports is when they, you know, organizations try to say like, hey, our fans are part of the team. You know what I mean? Our guys were literally part of our team. Like they literally like, you know, I'd go down and see them before games. They had wish lists, what type of players they wanted. You know, we try to make it happen. You know, it was like a fantasy camp. I mean, we literally would listen to them. You know, we would literally, you know, I would personally like take a lot of things they wanted into consideration.
Mm-hmm. Well, they were your audience, right?
You got it. Listen, you know, I tell people, you know, I don't remember what the exact price was, but let's just pretend it's $20 a game. And, you know, let's say they come to a minimum of 4 to 5 games a month. I mean, that's a bill for people. So it's like you got to give them what they want, you know?
Mm-hmm. So the first time when we went to sit down and have a chat, we had to postpone because you had to head to Vegas. So now you got Champs Boxing Club. How did that whole thing get started? And man, Vegas on the Wilder card, like how awesome is that?
Yeah.
Like, how was that weekend?
What's going on there?
Yeah, that was big. I mean, I've been in boxing now 10 and a half years. And, you know, the gym itself, you know, it's funny. It's right by the ice arena too. So, you know, the gym is 6.5 years old now. And, you know, we've developed a lot of pros, amateurs. It's a regular gym as well. So, you know, guys, girls could come in just to work out. And, yeah, that was a big weekend. You know, we unfortunately came up short that fight, but, you know, sometimes just to get on those stages is a win. And, you know, we just, you know, boxing's a whole nother animal. I mean, it's insane, but that was a big experience. It was my first time in Vegas, and it was you know, to be there for a boxing, you know, for the biggest card in years, you know, I mean, it was definitely something I'll never forget.
Very cool. And you just got a UFC champion in Danbury. Glover Teixeira won the belt over the weekend too.
Yeah, one big that was a big one. So I'm happy for him. And you know, it's you know, it's brewing over here. It's starting to brew over here. You know, you know, you just got to be consistent, and you know, there's ups and downs with it, but you know, slowly but surely, you know, try to turn into a little fight town. You never know.
That's awesome. And being from Danbury, having a chance to, like, you've now that you're a little bit older, you're older, you got a family, and to have the fact that you're from this little spot in Danbury and actually know that you've had an impact on like the sports culture there, because you can't really ever tell the story now in Danbury without telling the story of the Trashers. Like, what does that kind of mean to you to like come from there and to still be there and be a part of that now?
Yeah, I mean, it's super special, you know. You know, just to, you know, I'm big on history, you know what I mean? And you know, no matter how big or small it is, you know, when you have your hand in something, you know, historic, you know, even if it's just a little local thing, you know, it's you know, it's really gratifying, you know, and it's fun to, you know, like I said, I never left here, you know, so it's one of those things where, you know, I love where I'm from, and you know, I want to try to just keep building and you know, see whatever the next project is.
Do you find that you, like, I'd have to say you've probably rose to somewhat of a celebrity sort of status. It has, I don't know, has your life sort of changed since the doco in any way? People giving you a little bit more, I don't know, leeway, or letting you into clubs that maybe you didn't get into before? I don't know.
No, you know what it is? I'll be honest with you. The only thing that's really changed, it's been super busy. You know, I'm trying to promote the, you know, I didn't make the documentary, but I'm trying my best to keep it going, promote it, seeing how big, you know, I mean, look, you guys are in New Zealand, right? So it's like trying to grind and, you know, look, it's it may not last forever. So I'm trying to take in, we're selling merchandise, jerseys, it's like a new full-time job. So it's taken almost 2 months to kind of adjust to it. It's just gotten really busy, but my day-to-day hasn't changed much. I mean, I still go to I'm at the gym every day, but nothing, I know it sounds crazy, but nothing major. And, the local people, to be honest, they know the story. So, it's other than, hey, it's cool, I saw you on Netflix. It hasn't been a major change because a lot of these people have been around, so they know. And, which I'm thankful for, because I don't want any special treatment or anything crazy, but, it's just gotten extremely busy.
Yeah, I seen
understandable.
You were went and said some made it rain in the hat tricks dressing room the other day. Your dad's calling you Hollywood. Breaking
he's
your balls.
My dad. Yeah, they invited us. They invited us to talk to the team before the game, and me and my dad were like, well, what are we gonna say? Because it's not our team, and we came up with, it's funny, the documentary, they're talking about throwing the money down and this and that. I'm like, it'd be funny if we, threw some money, in the locker room, and it's just one of those things for it was a good laugh, and the guys really liked it, and it was a good time.
Yeah.
And this one comes from everybody else. There's no way, like, we couldn't sit you down for as long as we've sat you down here and not ask you before we leave. You got to tell us a little bit about growing up with Uncle T-Bone.
I mean, I tell people what you see in the doc is what he didn't, like, he wasn't putting on a show, like, that's who he is. And he's always been that way. What you see is what you get, and he's all over the place. And, you just never know what you're going to, every day, if you're with him, it's every day's an adventure. You just don't know I remember he would drive me home in the summers, like, from hockey camp, and, the hockey bag, especially when you're younger, they're like 1,000 pounds, and, I remember once I was probably like legitimately like a half a mile from home, and he gets a phone call. He picks up. He goes, all right, get out of the car. I gotta go. And it was like 100 degrees out, and I gotta carry this big hockey bag like half a mile to the house, and I was cursing him the whole time. And he's definitely a one of a kind. I'll just say that.
Is he still involved in hockey now?
No, no, he's not actually. I don't know if he'll get any jobs, after revealing he's knocking 11 and 12-year-olds into the boards. But, he's not involved with hockey at this time. But
you tell him he can be the equipment manager of the hockey house any day of the week.
He would love that, believe me.
But AJ, thank you so much, man, for stopping by, being a man of your word, a true stand-up guy that popped by the bench and shared some stories. And now we're proud to call you a friend of the show, man.
100%, guys. I really appreciate it.
Hope everyone enjoyed the interview. We tried to ask some questions that nobody's asked them before. That was mainly the goal. I think we got a few stories though that he's had to probably tell, but we had to ask a few about the Trashers anyway. So. But yeah, it was a fun interview.
I thought it was funny to find out that like he was like one of the only GMs ever to like not be able to go on the road because his mom wouldn't let him.
Yeah.
Like she knew better.
Yeah,
she knew better.
Well, I mean, take a look at T-Bone, right? She's like, absolutely fucking not. Are you going with fucking T-Bone? But no. I guess T-Bone probably, made good friends with, mom and dad, tried to sort of set them at ease or whatever. But I don't know. He came across as someone you probably don't want to mess with or trust, But
okay, so we kind of talked about him being Uncle T-Bone to him. So like, who's your uncle? Mine was Uncle Carl.
Uncle John.
I had lots of uncles.
Rest his soul, Uncle Carl. But yeah, mine was definitely Uncle Carl.
Yeah, I had Uncle Dave.
Uncle Dave.
Yeah,
I know what he was up to.
Uncle Dave, Uncle Jim, Uncle Tony. Yeah, that was it.
So Uncle Carl for me, it's my mom's brother. You don't really forget her. Well, you don't really forget my Uncle Carl either. So I remember being 14, I think 14. And I'm sleeping in bed. It's 2:30 in the morning. Knock, knock, knock on my bedroom window. I look out, and it's my Uncle Carl. It's my Uncle Carl, and he's looking frantic. His hair is all messed up, and he's wide-eyed. And I'm 14 years old. I don't know what's going on with him. So I go over to the side door. I let him in the back door. He doesn't want to come in the house. He's like, "Don't let your mom know I'm here. Grab some clothes and come with me." And I'm like, "What the fuck's going on?" He's like, I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "What? Like, what do we mean here?" And he's like, just help me. I need help." And I'm like, "Okay." So I'm in boxers. It's like 2:30 in the morning. So I go and I throw on all my clothes, whatever, and I go out, and he's got like this sick, like Toyota Celica, like 1993, but it is 1994. You know what I mean? Like, so it's tidy. And it's like, you're damn near sitting on the pavement while you're driving in this thing, right? And he's like, "You have to drive." And he's just like, "You have to drive." And the eyes are wide open. I'm like, "Oh God," like, okay. And he's like profusely sweating. And I'm like, and again, I'm 14. I've never driven stick in my life. I've stalled this thing now 3 times. We're barely out of the driveway, and we're trying not to get caught by my mother. So finally we get out of the driveway, and he's shifting for me because I'm learning how to drive stick. So now we're on the 406, and we're headed north. And I don't know where we're going at all. So now he asked me to pull over.
You're on the 406.
Yeah, we're on the 400. And I've never driven in my life. I'm 14 years old. And it's like, now it's about 3:00 in the morning.
So you just giving her a second gear?
Jesus.
No, he was shifting for me.
Oh,
okay.
okay.
He'd be like, "Step,
It's just
step." And then I figured it out. I figured I wasn't that bad, right? I figured it out after a while. But anyway, so now we're on the 406, and we're headed north, and then we pull into Grimsby, into this hotel. we pull into this hotel. We pull a motel, a truck stop. Okay, so we pull into this. We pull into this truck stop, and I'm like, "What is going on?" So we pull into this truck stop, pull up to this room, and he's like, "Yeah, it's the room there on the end. Pull up in front of there." I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I pull up in front of there, and like literally as we turn in and the lights kind of hit the window of the room we're going to, the door flies open, and it's like a half-naked girl.
Friends of the road.
In a robe, right? In a robe. And I'm like,
"Friends of the road, my friend."
"Oh, okay." And then as I get closer, I realize, no, it's not a girl.
It's a dude.
And he's like, and I'm looking at the person, and like, I'm 14 trying to process what's going on. And then my uncle, I look over, and he's opening the door. It's the next door neighbor who's opening their door. It's not his room.
Was it a dude?
It's just this crazy. It was a dude dressed up as a girl, and he was in there, and apparently he was his neighbor. Okay, so
dude, that's like a
we end up going. So then we go into this. So exactly, the person who opened the door has nothing to do with the story. So anyway, so we go in, and I go into the room, and there's literally, it's just there. He's just booked in for the first time. Like, there's nothing there. There's nothing there except a big bottle of booze that's half done, and a suitcase laying on the bed that's never been opened. And I'm like, okay, what is going on there? So he picks up the suitcase. He opens up the suitcase, picks up the suitcase, and he hands me a camera. And I'm like, okay, what are we doing? He's like, "We got to go do something." And I'm like, he's like, "Follow me." And I'm like, all right, cool. So we go outside, and he walks up to the truck that's just parked in the truck stop. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna make a calendar for you right now." And he comes in and he's like, "This is my photographer, and his name's Joe." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, I guess I'm Joe. I'm Joe the photographer." So now I'm 14 years old. I'm Joe the photographer, and I'm taking pictures of this big rig truck. Well, I'm taking all these pictures of this big rig truck, and my uncle takes the film out, runs it through this processor, and creates a calendar for this guy inside of like an hour. It's now 5:00 in the morning, right? So he sells it to this guy. He comes back with a handful of money. He's like, "We got to get back in the car." So we get back in the car. The next thing you know, I'm driving to the Toronto Pearson airport, and I drop him off. And he's like, "Hey, see you later." And I'm like, "What do you mean, see you later?" I was like, "I'm sitting in the driver's seat of his car." He's like, "Yeah, just do whatever with the car." So I had this car for like 3 weeks that I would take to high school, but I'd park around the corner from my house every night. So I'd wake up, I'd go to the bus stop, and then I'd watch my mom drive away to go to work. Then I'd walk to the car and jump into the Celica and drive it to school at like 14 years old, just for like a couple weeks. So my felony was created by my uncle Carl. That's like,
Your mom never found out?
oh yeah, well she'll find out when she sees the show here, I guess. But but I figured that since my uncle Carl is gone now, he can't get shit for it. So, and I'm.
So wait a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to summarize this story here. These were the highlights and details that caught my attention. All right, so one, your uncle obviously snuck into your house, right?
No, he knocked on my window on the outside.
Yeah, okay.
And told you to get some clothes.
Yeah, I told you to get some clothes.
I came around
leave.
to let him in, and he didn't come in the house at all. He just stood outside and told me through the screen to get some
sneaking
clothes.
into your house to get you,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay. So there you go. Okay. I mean, maybe I don't want to recount all this, but my God. Okay. That's Jesus H. Christ, Cam. Uncle Carl was,
maybe he trusted me and knew I wouldn't tell anybody.
Why wake you up in the middle of the night to go make a calendar?
He just said
and then drop him off at the airport, and then what? You had his car for 3 weeks, right? Driving around unlicensed at 4.
So
is he going to Colombia?
No, so what happened was he flew to Halifax.
Waking up a 14-year-old boy, making him drive for the first time on the 401, not
well, the 406 to the 401 to the QEW.
to a truck stop motel.
Yeah. And to stop at a truck stop just so that he could get money from making a calendar.
A calendar, and then he's got to go to the airport. That's fucking awesome. All right, well, cheers to Uncle Carl.
Yeah.
What an adventure. Yeah.
Documentaries, eh?
Yeah.
So I tried to choose from the 3 things that I really like. So hockey, music, and social studies, history, and stuff. So I'll start with the Chiefs. Hockey. If you haven't seen the Chiefs, you've got to see the Chiefs.
Fuck, haven't seen the Chiefs yet.
It really is like, for me,
you're doing yourself a disservice.
I know.
Oh yeah, I've seen it a zillion times, and it's one of those things that you watch it, and sort of the underlying theme in that movie. I'm not going to spoil it or say anything. You have to watch it if you've seen it. It's this, and we all feel it. This love for the game so much that the game never dies, even after things become unreal. There is still that little boy inside you that thinks there's still a chance, or I can still somehow make this work. Still, like after watching it, I just think about the guys that played in the minors and like the super minors, deep in the minors, that are just they don't grow up because they're just I play hockey. They give me money to do it. It's nothing, but
That's right.
you know.
That's
and then you
right.
see how
Yeah.
they've got families and kids, and it's just you got to see it. It's fantastic. You can find it on YouTube. It's all on there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's on Netflix.
It's really
I
good,
think.
man.
Yeah.
I
Cody
don't
or
think it's on
whatever.
Netflix. It's definitely
No.
on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
It's actually on the BHL page too. If you go to Langer's Lounge.
But it's got
Oh,
a trailer
right.
for boys sort of production value. Like it's very
Yeah.
raw. It's very real.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very
Yeah.
And the characters are really
Yeah.
you're really fascinated by these guys because
Like these guys live in the rink.
the part of you kind of feels like you're part of them. Like little parts of you think, you know, I could very much be that guy.
Well, it reminds me of, like, I mean, that's not all that uncommon. Like, we talked about the dude that bought the New York Rangers, didn't we? Was it the Rangers?
Islanders,
man. Yeah.
Big shot.
Yeah. Like,
Big shot. John Spano.
Yeah. Johnny. Fuck. Anyways, yeah. What the fuck, right? Like, how do you forge? Because I'm just asking for a friend.
Right.
Documents that, says that
it was
you
a different
own
time.
trillions of
it was
dollars.
a different time in the 70s, 80s, even 90s. You could get away with shit.
Well, that's the interesting thing I like about watching documentaries. I've always felt like your life is a story. And have you ever thought about if your story was made into a documentary? Would it be interesting? Would you watch it? Not just because it's about you. Was it interesting enough? Would you watch it? And I always think about that with life and experiences. If I was going to write a book or do a documentary on myself, would it be interesting? And I think at the end of the day, if you've had an interesting life, then you know.
Well, what else are you supposed to do, right? Life's an adventure, you know.
And exactly.
Full of ups and downs, but you just wake up and you do it again.
Yep.
Right?
That's
Eat some food, take a shit when you need to.
Yeah, walk out the door, go back inside again.
That's right. That's right.
Think you're going to do some shit today, and you find the couch.
That's right.
That's the end of that.
Hockey's on.
That's right, all day. From 6 a.m.
Fuck.
That's why I love Sunday. Sundays is like football Sunday for hockey.
I'm starting to. Oh, it's great.
It's all.
Yeah.
It's like 6:30 at night. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's the best.
12 hours.
Yeah.
I'm watching Arizona and like fucking Nashville. Like this is the stupidest ever. But why not?
That's right. What else am I gonna do? It's Sunday. You want to go out? No.
No, it's just on.
I'm gonna watch this shitty old game, but I'll watch it anyways. Yeah. Oh shit! I wonder what the score was.
So for anybody who's stuck with us to this point, who's enjoyed the interview tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to go around the horn here. And,
the corn?
Yeah, was that around the corn? Top corns all day, every day. Thanks for picking me up there, bud. That's a sick apple right there. So speaking of top corns, we're going to go for our very top must-watch doco that everybody has to check out if they get a chance to. So Langer, go ahead. What's the one? Name the title. What's the one somebody's got to see? Recent or happened in the past, whatever.
All the ones I've said. My left one on here. And it was about daily riots after the
April 26, 1992.
Yeah.
There was a riot on the streets.
And so what makes it so compelling is they do a very comprehensive document of build-up. And how they do it is you really get an understanding of the social climate that's happening in the States, and particularly in Los Angeles, and how it bubbled over to that insanity. And I remember seeing the riots and stuff on TV.
Yeah.
The Rodney King stuff. But
Yeah.
they did a great job of really showing you how it got to that point. Like, it's very tense. Kind of sitting there, white knuckling a little bit as things start really bad. And you almost come away with it thinking, how did it not actually? You know, with the George Floyd riots that happened after that happened last year. But they've had race riots in the States. This was different. Just like with Duck 99, it's like a lot of suicide stories with Asian stormers like buying guns and shooting at looters, like footage of them shooting at. Like, it was just like the end of the world. So yeah, if you get a chance, LA 92 is spectacular. Watch it a couple of times, and it's just like, again, you know, I was younger,
Yeah,
but I remember,
but old enough, right?
Wasn't engaged and invested enough to follow it like you would as.
Yeah, likewise.
When you're 13, I don't know how I was, 14 or whatever. It was there, you know. So check it out. LA 92, amazing.
Summer, what about you?
Oh fuck, man! I got absolutely nothing. Doco, you gotta fucking see. Wow, geez, something. I'm looking for something profound here. I mean, for what I'm in, I'd fucking recommend the original Carl Sagan Cosmos series. That's a fucking great fucking series. It is fucking. I think it's like, I want to say 10 or 12. Like, it's a season, you know. They're all an hour and 20 minutes, I think. But and again, they're just raw. Like, I mean, you know, the information censoring was a lot less than, you know, people weren't afraid to say crazy shit because I don't know. They're just, I don't know. Because Carl Sagan was fucking, you know, way beyond his years. I don't know if anybody's seen what's his name, Neil deGrasse Tyson's Cosmos series, and he tries to sort of replicate it. And, you know, as engaging as he is, I just find Carl Sagan a lot more interesting. Caught my attention, yeah, and kept it, you know. But so yeah,
and for me, it would be Long Shot. So Long Shot is a doco about a guy who went to trial for murder, and was found on.
Was this guy found in a baseball game?
Yes, he was found on at a baseball game on a crowd because they were filming a movie there, and he was acquitted after several years of being in prison. It's called Long Shot. It's pretty unreal story. You definitely have to check it out. So this guy goes to I don't want to ruin it, but a guy goes to a baseball game, and then he's arrested that night and charged with murder. Ends up getting found guilty, goes to jail, fights it for years on end, and then is acquitted because of footage from a TV show, in which he was like unknowingly an extra on the show, and they find him at the game. And it proves his alibi. And he gets out of prison like several years later. It's pretty wild show. And the show was Curb Your Enthusiasm. Yeah. So like Larry David's one of the he was the guy that was being filmed, and yeah, it's pretty wild. It's on Netflix. It's called Long Shot. Anyways, this has been a pretty good episode. We're talking about documentaries and documentary.
What's a documentary?
It was a long shot for us to reach out to a guy who was starring in a documentary, and we got him, and it was an awesome interview. And it's going to kick off a little roll here. We're going to come back next week with episode 35. Mike Broccoli will be back on the show this weekend. Should be a good time, and we will talk to you soon. Hit subscribe, make sure you get locked in for the next episodes, listen to the audio episodes anywhere you can get your podcasts, and thanks again for tuning in.
See you, folks.
'Cause I'm riding the pine, riding the pine. It's Chronicles of the Fourth Line. I'm just sitting on a bench with two good friends of mine.